So, picture the heaviest, most imposing oak doors you can possibly
Yeah.
imagine. You push them open, and inside, there's just this massive room.
Right.
You see the rich wood paneling, a judge sitting high up on a bench draped in a dark robe, and you hear the loud, definitive crack of a gavel. I mean, when we think about ultimate justice, human beings are practically hardwired to expect a physical space. We really just want a room.
Yeah, we crave that structure. And perhaps more importantly, we really crave the scheduling of it.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
we want a date circled on the calendar, a specific future moment when all the evidence of our lives is, finally laid out, weighed, and a final verdict is handed down.
It's comforting in a really strange way.
Oh, for sure.
We like the idea that cosmic accountability is this appointment we could see coming from a mile away.
Oh.
But today, we are taking a deep dive into a philosophical perspective that completely vaporizes that courtroom.
Completely tears it down.
Right. We are looking at an essay by Lifechanyuan titled, "The Greatest Creator's Judgment of Humanity Occurs at All Times and in All Places."
Oh.
And this was translated and edited by Kinyu. Our mission for this deep dive is to completely dismantle the traditional, comforting concept of a future judgment day that so many major religions have taught us.
Which is a huge undertaking.
It is. We're going to explore a framework that replaces that waiting room with a relentless, living spiritual law, one that is judging every single microscopic move you make right at this very second.
It's a profound shift in how we view existence, honestly. It drags ultimate accountability out of the distant, hazy future and places it directly into the palm of your hand today, in the mundane moments of your everyday life.
Okay, let's unpack this because the author takes a massive swing right out of the gate.
Yeah, he really does.
The essay claims that after a thorough exploration of what are referred to as 36-dimensional spaces, no designated place for a collective or individual judgment was ever found. No cosmic courthouse, no waiting room for souls. But before we go further, that phrase, 36-dimensional spaces, is a heavy one. What exactly are we talking about there?
Well, in the cosmological framework presented by Suifeng, existence isn't just this one physical universe we can see.
Okay.
It is a vast, multi-layered reality comprising 36 distinct dimensions or spaces. These range from the dense physical world we inhabit all the way up through various ethereal, energetic, and highly spiritual planes.
Wow.
Yeah, and the argument being made is that even if you scan every single layer of this infinite cosmic architecture, you will never find a geographical location built for a trial. The greatest creator simply never assigned a fixed date or a fixed venue to judge humanity.
So if there is no courtroom anywhere in the universe and no date on the calendar, where did humanity get this universal, deeply ingrained idea of a final judgment day?
That is the big question.
The text points to two major historical blind spots. The first is basically human logistical error mixed with ego. The idea is that ancient people who recorded the words of gods or Buddhas severely misinterpreted those divine teachings.
Right. They took these massive, uncontainable spiritual concepts and tried to, translate them for everyday people.
And in doing so, they mixed in their own limited human cleverness.
They superimposed human systems of governance onto the divine. I mean, think about it. A human king holds court on a Tuesday in a throne room. So the reasoning went that the creator of the universe must hold court at the end of time in a celestial throne right after the world ends.
That makes sense.
It's a projection of our own bureaucratic limitations onto the cosmos.
But the second reason the text highlights hits much closer to home, and it exposes a massive flaw in human psychology. We have a desperate, fundamental bias toward outcomes.
We obsess over the finish line.
Exactly. When we look at human existence, we view death as the ultimate conclusion, the absolute period at the end of the sentence. And because we stare so hard at that period, we completely neglect the actual sentence, the ongoing breathing process of life that leads up to it.
What's fascinating here is how the text views the consequence of that psychological flaw. Because we ignore the process of living, we invent this fantasy that after we die, our souls will suddenly face a final exam.
Right.
But Suifeng argues this belief isn't just factually incorrect, it actively blasphemes the greatest creator. It acts as a spell.
A spell.
Yeah, a spell. It's a psychological barrier placed deep within human consciousness that paralyzes us. Instead of motivating us to be better people today, this belief actually confuses humanity and exacerbates the hardships of life.
I have to pause and challenge that premise on behalf of anyone listening.
Go for it.
If we completely remove the final exam, if there is no terrifying court date at the end of the universe where I have to answer for my sins,
Yeah.
What stops me from acting entirely selfishly right now? If the judgment is canceled, aren't we all just off the hook?
Well, that is the illusion the text is trying to shatter. Judgment is not canceled. It is relocated.
Relocated where?
The thesis here is that judgment is immediate. The greatest creator's evaluation and selection of humanity is happening anytime, anywhere, concurrently with your actions.
Concurrently.
Yes. But the executor of this judgment isn't a celestial being sitting on a cloud reviewing a ledger. The judgment is executed by the Tao.
Which introduces a completely different mechanism for justice. We are trading a judge on a calendar for the Tao, which is operating constantly in the background of reality.
Right.
To understand this, we have to clearly define what the Tao actually is in relation to the greatest creator. And the text brings up a really fascinating paradox.
It does.
It points to the biblical phrase, word is God, or as translated in this context, Tao is the greatest creator.
Yeah.
But then it adds a massive, crucial caveat. The greatest creator is not Tao.
Which sounds like an impenetrable riddle at first.
Yeah, it really does.
To untangle it, the author offers a historical and political analogy, comparing it to Mao Zedong and Mao Zedong thought. The philosophy, the thought, represents the man perfectly. But the physical person himself is not merely a collection of those thoughts.
Right, that makes sense.
Or consider the concept of a nation. The written laws of China absolutely represent the will and order of China. But the physical landmass, the billions of citizens, the mountains and rivers, that physical reality is not the laws themselves.
Let me see if I can translate that into another framework to make sure we're grasping the architecture here. It feels very similar to like a massive multiplayer video game.
Oh, I like that.
Think about the source code of the game versus the lead developer who programmed it. The source code is the developer's will. It dictates gravity, how fast you can run, what happens when you take damage.
Yes.
The code represents the creator perfectly and enforces the rules everywhere simultaneously without the developer having to manually intervene. The source code is the developer's law. But the source code is obviously not the physical developer sitting at a desk drinking coffee.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The Tao is essentially the source code of the universe. The text defines the Tao explicitly as the spiritual law that upholds the orderly functioning of the universe and the cycle of life.
So it's autonomous.
Exactly. The Tao follows the will of the greatest creator. It is synonymous with the spirit of the creator, executing the rules of reality autonomously.
But the text is quick to warn us against viewing the Tao the same way we view a country's written laws. Because, when we hear the word law, our minds snap right back to that oak-paneled courtroom.
Right. We think of dead dogma.
You think of a tax code we can find a loophole in, or a speed limit we can negotiate with a clever lawyer.
And the Tao cannot be manipulated like that because it isn't dead text. It is alive. It is a spiritual fabric that cannot be fully captured by language.
Which is why it's so hard to talk about.
Right. This is why historical spiritual giants struggled so immensely to articulate it. The essay points out that Laozi and Shakyamuni Buddha spent their entire lives trying to explain the specific layer of meaning.
The essay even pulls directly from the Diamond Sutra to prove how impossible it is to pin this living law down with human vocabulary.
Yeah.
He uses quotes like, all phenomena are illusory, and the Dharma cannot be grasped, expressed, nor is it truly Dharma or non-Dharma. Language is just too rigid to hold it.
Those Diamond Sutra references are vital because they emphasize that this spiritual law operates entirely outside human categorization. It operates with absolute equality, without high or low.
It doesn't care about your social status.
No, or your wealth. It is the living, breathing mechanics of consequence.
Okay, so the Tao is this living spiritual source code. The obvious question then is, how exactly does it physically execute immediate judgment in our everyday lives?
Good question.
Because if I lie to my boss right now, lightning doesn't come through the ceiling and strike me. So what is the mechanism?
Well, the text answers this by introducing the law of cumulation, and to explain it, the author moves away from high-level cosmology and uses incredibly mundane, relatable examples like cooking in a busy kitchen.
Yes, the grease on the kitchen walls.
Exactly. If you spend time in a kitchen where there is a lot of heavy wok frying, you'll eventually notice a thick, sticky layer of grease on the tiles above the stove. The question is, did that thick layer of grease materialize all at once on a Tuesday afternoon?
Of course not. It builds up invisibly, meal by meal, sizzle by sizzle. The author also points to the back of a smoker's teeth. They don't turn black the moment they finish their very first cigarette.
Right.
It is the silent, daily, microscopic accumulation of smoke over years.
And those everyday physical realities scale up perfectly to explain massive, life-altering events. When someone suffers a sudden heart attack or a stroke, we tend to view it as an isolated ambush.
Like it just came out of nowhere.
Right, but biologically, it is almost never caused by a single moment of low vitality. It is the climax of a long, unseen accumulation of arterial plaque, stress, and lifestyle choices.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The sudden, devastating Tangshan earthquake wasn't the result of one single random tectonic anomaly that decided to happen that morning. And a massive dust storm doesn't blot out the sun just because you pulled out a few blades of grass in your backyard today.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text uses this brilliant analogy of the 9 steamed buns to expose our blindness to this process.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Imagine you are absolutely starving. You sit down and you eat 9 steamed buns in a row. When you finally feel satisfied, do you proclaim that only the 9th bun made you full?
No, of course not.
Do you look back and say the first 8 buns were a total waste of time and had no effect on your hunger?
We laugh at how absurd that sounds, yet that is exactly how we view our lives. We only notice the 9th bun.
Right.
We only register the heart attack, the earthquake, the moment the teeth turn black, or the day the divorce papers are signed. We completely ignore the first 8 buns. The years of poor diet, the decades of shifting geological pressure, the thousands of tiny, unresolved resentments in a marriage.
Let me pose a question directly to you listening, because applying this logic flips our understanding of luck on its head.
It really does.
If a sudden stroke or a car crash is the inevitable 9th bun of negative accumulation, does this framework imply that random strokes of good luck are also precise judgments of the Tao?
Absolutely.
The text specifically asks, if someone is unexpectedly elevated to a central government position, or if they randomly get an opportunity to go abroad as a visiting scholar, are we supposed to view
Every single drop of water, every unseen effort matters. Without personal dedication, there is no happy life. Without profound contemplation, you cannot achieve wisdom. And without the active daily manifestation of love, the Spirit will not descend upon you.
in an instant there is eternity? That concept is staggering, because if every single instant contains eternity and the universe is running an inescapable, invisible accounting system, it forces us to look incredibly critically at our exact next action.
It forces total accountability.
Right. How do we navigate a world where we are constantly being graded, where we are constantly accumulating grease on the walls of our own soul?
Well, the author provides a baseline foundation for how to live under this law. First, it requires a genuine belief in the greatest creator, coupled with a heart full of gratitude. Secondly, it emphasizes the importance of listening to the teachings of gods and Buddhas. Instead of dismissing ancient spiritual texts as mere superstition or outdated mythology, the essay urges us to view them as treasures of wisdom and the ultimate guidebooks of life, noting that these teachings carry absolutely zero malice toward humanity.
But the philosophy doesn't stop at reading ancient texts. It gets intensely, uncomfortably practical.
Very practical.
The imagery the author uses to describe this real-time judgment is incredibly stark. The essay asks you to imagine that the Tao is standing right beside you, right now. In one hand, the Tao is holding a knife. In the other hand, the Tao is holding what's called the gem of life.
It is a vivid, almost aggressive metaphor meant to shatter our complacency.
And to drive the point home, the text fires off a series of rapid-fire micro-choices. I want you, the person listening right now, to imagine walking through your day with that invisible knife and gem hovering right over your shoulders.
It changes everything.
When you have a piece of trash in your hand, do you toss it on the street because no one is looking, or do you take the extra steps to find a bin? When a colleague or a family member wrongs you, do you seek revenge and plot to ruin them, or do you find the strength to forgive?
Right. And when you encounter an opportunity for infidelity, do you engage or do you go home to your spouse? When you see a loophole to cheat someone for a bargain, do you take advantage of their ignorance or do you maintain your honesty?
When you're standing at the neon entrance of a casino feeling the pull of addiction, do you walk in or do you force yourself to turn around? When your sibling is in deep financial or emotional trouble, do you actively help them or do you abandon them to protect your own peace?
Yeah.
When the nation around you is on the verge of collapse, do you act opportunistically to make a quick buck off the panic? Or do you actively strive to turn the tide and help your community?
We have to ask, how does the Tao actually record these choices? If you choose to pick up a piece of trash, what is the physical or spiritual mechanism that registers that action?
Right, where does it go?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these choices are not just abstract moral thought experiments. They are the mechanics of energetic resonance. Every choice you make actively alters the architecture of your consciousness.
It's like neuroplasticity, but for the soul.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It isn't a cosmic accountant with a clipboard giving you a demerit for littering. It's that by choosing selfishness, you are physically introducing rot into your own internal structure.
Yes, exactly.
The text uses agricultural metaphors to explain this causality. If you sow thorns, you are literally physically obstructing your own future path. If you plant willows, you guarantee that you will never taste apples. You reap exactly what you sow: gourds from gourd seeds, beans from bean seeds.
The precision of this causality is absolute. The essay contrasts this perfection with human management. Our human justice systems, our courts, our laws, they are inherently flawed because our human wisdom is insufficient and our spirituality is clouded. An innocent person can go to jail. A guilty person can walk free on a technicality. But the Tao's net, the text quotes the ancient proverb that the net of heaven has big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through.
Letting nothing slip through.
The operation of the Tao never errs. You make the selfish choice, the frequency of your soul drops, the knife is at your throat. You make the selfless choice, your frequency rises, you receive the gem.
So what does this all mean? What is the actual prize here? Because the reward for passing these thousands of daily microtests isn't a mansion in the clouds, and it isn't a harp.
Definitely not a harp.
The text reveals that the ultimate reward for aligning with the Tao is the evolution of your life's non-material structure. Your spiritual DNA essentially evolves and upgrades toward a higher dimensional level of life.
And achieving that upgrade fundamentally alters your entire value system. The essay states that once your non-material structure reaches this higher frequency, even if someone offered you all the physical treasures of the material world in exchange, you would be completely unmoved.
You just wouldn't care.
Right. Wealth, status, physical luxury, they all lose their grip on you. You ascend to a level of existence where you can act effortlessly, what the text describes as treading the path of life smoothly.
The physical wealth of the world just becomes completely meaningless when you realize that you are actively doing structural engineering on your own soul every single time you decide how to speak to a waiter or how to dispose of a piece of garbage.
That realization requires a massive shift in responsibility. We've moved entirely away from the fear of a distant, mythical judgment day.
Yeah, we really have.
There is no judge waiting to review your file in the afterlife. The living Tao is actively judging your every microaction, from what you eat to how you manage your anger to your honesty in the dark, and it is instantly rewriting your spiritual structure based on those inputs.
Which brings us all the way back to those heavy oak doors in that courtroom we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive. We created that courtroom because we desperately wanted to believe that the gavel would fall on some distant Tuesday, decades from now.
It gave us a convenient excuse to ignore the process.
Exactly. It allowed us to ignore the daily accumulation of grease on the walls of our lives. But Xu Feng's essay strips away that comfort and leaves us with a reality that is far more demanding and honestly far more empowering. In an instant, there is eternity.
If the Tao's judgment is truly instantaneous, if it is perfectly recording the non-material structure of our lives through the mechanism of every single mundane choice we make, then we are not merely traveling on a long road toward a final destination in the afterlife.
We aren't. And that is the exact thought we want to leave you with today to chew on. If the law of accumulation is the true mechanism of the universe, then consider this. The way you react to the next piece of trash you hold in your hand, or the way you handle the very next moment of frustration you feel today, that reaction isn't just a fleeting moment in time.
It really isn't.
It is the actual, tangible building block of the exact heaven or hell you are choosing to inhabit. You aren't waiting to be sent somewhere after you die. You are building your afterlife brick by brick, frequency by frequency, in real time, right this very second.
The gavel isn't waiting at the end of time.
No, the gavel is falling with every single breath you take. Keep a close eye on your very next action today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.